Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. I post weekly videos here to help beginner producers improve their music productions. I also want to send a special thank you to all my subscribers. Also, when we reach 300, I will have a special video for you guys. So if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. In this video, we'll have a look at a few ways that can help you improve the way you build your melodies. First, let's see what a melody actually is. A melody is a logical progression of tones and rhythms. Basically, it's a tune set to a beat. Basically, you can move the pitches in a melody rhythmically or tonally. When we talk about tones in melodies, we have upward movements or downward movements of the pitches between the first and the last note. These movements are also known as the contour of your melody. To create an upward movement, the last note has to be at least a third or a fifth above the first note. In downward movements, you force the last note to be lower than the first one. The notes in between don't have to go in the same direction, and it's also okay to end with the same note as you started. Just somewhere in the middle, you have to go higher or lower than that. If you choose a higher midpoint, your first half will have upward movement and the second half will have a downward movement. The second way a melody moves is through rhythm. Each tone takes up a specific place in time. The rhythm of a song is described by using different note values, and this is where the notion of quarter notes, half notes, and full notes comes in. We also have other increments, but we'll discuss that in a later episode. The home of your melody needs to be a specific pitch. You don't want your melodies going all over the place. Your home pitch doesn't have to be the tonic of the scale. You should definitely start and end your melodies in the same pitch. The important thing to remember here is that not all notes have the same importance in your song. So you will need to emphasize the notes that are the most important. The other notes in the melody can play around the home pitch and even land on it occasionally, but you definitely should focus on the main notes. You can make the third your home or the fifth, but probably not the second or sixth or seventh, because they are less related to the tonic triad, which is 1, 3, 5. What you want to avoid is having each measure of your melody center around a different pitch. Good melodies progress in small steps, which means that each note is only a step or two away from the previous one. We have stepwise motion, which goes directly from one note to the adjacent note, and we have skipwise motion, which uses intervals of a third or larger between the notes. Stepwise creates a familiar and expected sound, while skipwise is less expected. It's this variety between stepwise and skipwise that keeps your song interesting. When you use large jumps of 3 or more steps, it starts sounding random and difficult. You can use a series of passing notes within your chosen scale to move from one note to the other. The smaller the steps between the notes in your melody, the more natural your melody will sound. It's possible to create a melody that doesn't fall within a time signature. For example, you create a 6 beats melody which doesn't fit well within 4 bars. You can fix this by rephrasing your rhythms or changing the rest period between the sections of your melody. The goal is to create a melody that can be divided into measures without having extra beats left over. Make sure you can easily tell where the first beat of your measure is, especially in the first and last measures. You want your melody to end on a beat that feels right. Divide your melody in 2 parts and set up a harmonic tension in the first part, which is then resolved in the second part. This gives the melody internal logic, and it also helps move the melody from the first part to the second. One way to create tension is to end the first part of your melody on something other than the tonic. So end with the second, fifth, or seventh chords of the scale. This corresponds to the notes in the fifth chord. You then have to release this tension in the second part of your melody. with a tonic or one of the notes in the tonic triad, which is the first chord. The notes in the tonic triad are the tonic, third, and fifth of the scale, although the tonic and the third probably work better for releasing tension. Another effective technique is the call and response. This is where you set up a phrase in the first part of the melody and then answer that phrase in the second part. The first phrase takes you in one direction and the second phrase brings you back home. To create a call and response type of melody, it helps to think of a question and its answer. You also want the flow of your melody to match the flow of the words. For example, if the words ask a question, you probably want the melody to flow upward, to imitate the human voice ending a question on a higher pitch. Most words have a natural pace and will suggest a rhythm to you. For example, putting accent words or syllable on an accent on the downbeat. When you're picking the specific notes for your melody, it's good to stay within the 7 notes of that scale. For example, if you decide to write in the key of F major, your melody will include the notes F, G, A, B, C, D, and E. Used properly, none of these notes will sound out of place. Try to keep the lowest and the highest notes of the melody within the same octave, or at least an octave and a third. You can make things easier by sticking to 5 key notes, the first, second, third, fifth, and sixth of the scale. These notes form what is called a pentatonic scale. By using only these 5 notes, you avoid the 2 notes in the scale that create harmonic tension, the 4th and the 7th. Chord and progressions are very important to creating melodies. First, you come up with a chord progression and then you add the melody on top of that, or you build the melody from the chords. Of course, you can't do this until you learn about chords, so check out my other video on chords and I will link this in the section on top. Most melodies can be divided by 2. This means your melody has to be 2, 4, 8, or 16 measures long. You can repeat the entire melodic line, or you can construct a longer melodic line from shorter melodies. Repetition is important and it helps the listener remember the melody. The whole point is to create building blocks. This is where the concept of ABC sections comes in. Let's say that the first long melody is the verse, and we'll note this with A. The second is going to be your hook, and this is noted with B, and C is your instrumental part. So now we can map out our whole song using these letters. So we can have A, B, A, C, or different variations of this notation. The phrases contain a full musical thought or statement. In essence, the end of a melodic phrase is where the music breathes. The longer the phrase, the longer the break it needs after. So how can you create the variation of your melody? You can reverse the rhythm, simplify the rhythm, or make the rhythm more complex. You can reverse the notes so that your melody goes up instead of down, or down instead of up. Or change the middle notes in the melody, or shift the notes up or down a third or a fifth. If you get too far away from the original melody, it's not a variation anymore, it's a brand new melody. Alright friends, that was it for the video on melodies, and I hope you guys are enjoying this and find this useful. If you have any ideas for the next videos, please drop comments in the comment section below. Until next week, have a great weekend.